Okay. Hey, it's great to have Allan Patterson here. Allan and I just met online, Facebook, and it was so much fun. He he had some interesting comment on Facebook, and I said, I just really got to meet this guy. And we began talking, and I was just so impressed. I thought everyone should get to meet Allan. So, Allan, how you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. How about yourself?
You see, that's why I was so impressed with you. No, no, doing well. So I'm just going to do a brief little introduction, if that's all right. Um, Allan Patterson, he and I met on Facebook, and he lives in Oklahoma City, originally from northern Manitoba, which is really far. How many miles is that from northern Manitoba where you live to?
Oh, geez. I think I Googled it once. I want to say maybe 1,500 miles as the crow flies.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's going north to south.
Yes. Yeah. It's like three different flights to get from point A to B.
Three, did you say?
Three different flights. Yeah. And one of those flights is like $1,500. It's ridiculous.
Wow. Okay. And he works at Dell, and his official title is technical sales representative. But what he really does is he's a technical consultant to small and medium businesses. So he talks all day. And I thought that was really cool because not many people who stutter talk all day. You do stutter, right?
Oh, yeah, I do. I do. Hopefully something comes out of this call, but I've worked.
Proud of it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I've worked hard on trying to suppress it as much as I can, but it still comes out. And
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So how did you get from northern Manitoba to Dell?
So I grew up in a small little town called Flin Flon, Manitoba. I think right now it's got a population of about 4,500 people.
Oh, yeah.
At its peak, it maybe. Yeah. At its peak, it had like maybe 7,000 people. It's a tiny little town. Oh. It's the type of town that, in my opinion, growing up, nobody escapes. And so I had a really terrible stutter growing up. All throughout school, I had all kinds of issues. Getting up in front of class, making friends, heck, even talking to my own family. And I always wanted to get out of town. I always wanted to get out of that small town. It felt like a black hole that was just kind of encompassing my life. And I realized the only way I was going to get out was by finding a way to overcome this stutter so I could sort of progress my life and, gain the skills to get out of town.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how did you work through your stuttering?
Really, honestly, it was tough. Yeah, especially in my early years, my teen years, where you're just, you're angry at the sun from coming up the next day. You know what I mean? You're just an angry human being, and you have a stutter on top of that. It's difficult. As I got into my 20s and started to enter the workforce, though, I realized that I needed to take care of this, especially, in the United States and Canada, where the job market is pretty much overwhelmingly the service industry, right? Whether it's technology or whatever type of services you want. That was really the most optimal career path. Whatever you do, especially in this technological world where you're communicating with the world on a daily basis, you really have to be able to speak. And so for myself, as I was entering the workforce, I realized that I needed to. The only way through this was directly forward. I needed to push through it and find a way to overcome it. Growing up in a small town too, there's not a whole lot of resources. I think I had one speech therapist, and she kind of threw up her hands pretty quickly, not really knowing what to do. In hindsight, as an adult now, she was probably, in her early 20s and probably maybe had an associate's degree in some kind of early childhood education, and probably really wasn't equipped to handle that. Right. And so, just realizing that I needed to experiment. And the only way to experiment was to sort of put myself in uncomfortable situations. And, one thing that we talked about before this was mimicking. through, movies and television shows and songs, sort of trying to mimic the people that you had an emotional connection with, whether it was a movie or a book. As an angry teen, I really got into Hunter S. Thompson. And one of my favorite quotes by him was to never turn your back on fear. It should always be in front of you, like a thing that you might have to kill one day. And I look at my stutter as the same way. I mean, I got to keep it in front of me. So even to this day, where if I stammer on a word, I make a mental note of that. And I think, okay, I got to next time I'm in a situation that I find difficult, like a drive-through, or talking on the phone to, my worst is when I'm on the phone with somebody where they have the upper hand, sort of technically. Yeah. Whether it's through work or through my personal life, when I know they know more about the subject matter that I'm speaking about than I do, I struggle on that. So making sure to try to take that word and use it in that type of situation. And that way, if I can defeat it, then I know that, I'm not saying it's not going to catch me again one day, but at least I know, hey, I beat it once. I should be able to do it again.
God, I call that winning the word, winning the phrase.
Yeah.
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 And I actually, as I was working through things, that was one of the things that I focused on as well. That's
sure.
Funny.
Another technique I had was I love music, just like everybody. And just like everybody, you kind of find out, well, hey, I don't stutter when I sing. Yeah. And so trying to build in a rhythm into the way I speak. And maybe others don't see it, but I kind of feel it.
It feels good, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
People
and also,
don't believe me.
You're right. Yeah.
But it is a rhythm.
It is. It is. And I also adapted kind of like a William Shatner approach. So when I realized I was going to have some kind of a block, I owned it. And maybe I would put in another block in there from here and there. Shatner, especially if you watch the old Star Trek series, he was a master of taking one sentence and making it into a dozen different sentences with all his incredibly awkward pauses.
Yeah, right.
And so if you know you're going to block, man, own it. Make it part of your idiosyncratic communication style. Everybody has one. At the very least, it's going to make you more memorable to your audience.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So there isn't any one special thing that you did other than you brought yourself into situations.
Yeah.
Incredible courageousness. I was always just hiding. I turned down everything I could to hide from it, but you seem to just go at it.
Sure. Well, I mean, everything I'm speaking of, it was from like the mid to late 90s. And the internet was around, but it was in its infancy. There was no Reddit. There was no YouTube or Facebook. There's no central place where people can communicate with each other and say, hey, I have this going on. And other people would be like, hey, I do too. They didn't have anything like that. There was no social networking yet. That wasn't part of the vernacular at that time. And so I just had to figure it out myself. And of course, even to this day, when you come across somebody else that we mentioned before this call, we can kind of smell our own when we see other people that in the wild, as I like to say, that you suspect may have a stutter. You're probably right, because you can kind of see some of the same coping mechanisms that we use ourselves. But back then, I mean, even to this day, approaching somebody and asking about them, everybody kind of holds that so close and is very sensitive about that, and you don't necessarily want to challenge that at all, and sort of bring back any fear of, oh, this person is asking me about it because they're, coming at me with a negative approach.
So does your stuttering impact you at work? Does it get in the way, or have you seem like such a courageous person. You don't seem like anything stops you.
if it does impact me at work, it's all up here. It doesn't impact me relationally. It just impacts me myself. So yes and no. Honestly, I think it's impacted me in a positive light because it's forced me to reach out to that senior manager that's probably out of that I probably shouldn't reach out to just to talk about it and say, hey, listen, I've seen you. I saw you do that speech to the whole company. It was amazing. I just want to let you know I have a stutter. I just wanted to see what some of your personal techniques are when you know that you're going to be giving a speech. Because at the end of the day, and you and I kind of touched on this before this call, there's no perfect speakers out there. Everybody's got something. Whether or not they have a stutter, they have something. And in fact, I believe public speaking is still to this day more people are afraid of public speaking than they are of death. And so it's something that we all have to deal with, and we all have in common. Just some of us have to work a little bit harder at it. And sorry about my dog barking in the background.
I actually always found public speaking after I got used to it to be easier than conversing, because I felt I owned the floor.
Sure.
I felt that I was in control. But so what suggestions do you have for people working through their speech and trying to improve? It sounds like you've done so much. It's incredible.
Just be open-minded. Challenge yourself. Put yourself out there. Talk to people you wouldn't normally talk to. And if you're having issues, just be open about it. Human beings are pretty compassionate and pretty understanding. You're going to come across some jerks. Of course you are. Right. But more often than not, you're going to come across people with a big heart, and you're going to come across people who want to help. And one thing I was just going to say, one thing you don't really learn until you're an adult is most people want to help. You know what I mean? Most people, especially, if you reach out to someone like, hey, listen, I'm having troubles with my speech. I just need someone to talk to for a little bit just so I can have an audience to work through some things that I'm working on. Do you mind? I mean, we certainly have time right now. I mean, with the whole worldwide pandemic that we're under, people have time. And so reach out, whether it's through Zoom like this, or face-to-face, or heck, just call in the pizza place to order your pizza instead of doing it through DoorDash.
Yeah. I used to do that. So what would you suggest to someone who said, wow, Allan has really inspired me to get out of my comfort zone and do some new things, but taking that first step is really hard. What do you suggest to that person?
What are you afraid of? For me, I was afraid of being stuck in a small town. My fear of being stuck in a small town was greater than my fear of public speaking. There's got to be something in your life that you're more afraid of than your stutter. Maybe it's your health, or maybe it's your career path. Maybe it's your finances. Maybe it's your love life. There's something out there. Maybe it's loneliness. There's something out there that's got to be greater than your stutter and your fear of public speaking. Find that and allow that to be the fire that you light underneath you to overcome. And when I say overcome seems to be a hot word in the stuttering community. When I say overcome, I mean overcome it here, not necessarily here.
Right. Because we talked about this earlier. There are no magic cures. There's no really overcoming, but there is living the life you want, and you're certainly doing that.
Absolutely.
And Allan, I just love talking with you, and we'll have to do this again on some other topics, but it's been great talking with you, and we'll keep in touch.
Sure. Yeah, and anyone else out there, please reach out. As you can see, I love to talk, and I'd love to hear you talk.
I would highly suggest to everyone, reach out to Allan. Allan is, we've just had a wonderful conversation before the tape and during the tape.
First of many, I'm sure.
We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.